And with that, my friends, we are already done with the presentations. I think that's amazing. I think we should allow ourselves to maybe discuss a little bit about smart products while we have these great both audience and speakers here. My first question is, it's so great to see smart products. Everybody would love a lawnmower or something that is smart, but for you guys who presented, are people who have products, are they really open and ready to jump on your proposals to make their product smarter and better? What would you say about that? Anders Alning, I know for sure that I know things you have been involved with that. Has people been dragging your software from yourself to get going, or do you have to pursue them with very hard arguments, or how does it work?
I mean, there's been a change over time, I would say. When we started out, and it wasn't even a distinction to have edge machine learning. Now there are actually, I don't know how many, but quite a few trade shows that only discussed edge machine learning. So it becomes less of us having to explain to the customer what it is and what it does, more of actually showing them how you can get to a good result in a very short amount of time. So we've done a lot of sort of rapid iterative development, and you can see when the customer gets engaged, it goes quite quickly to get from just an idea to a first product, and then you can develop from there. So yeah, I would say that there's been a big change over time for sure.
Sounds good. Anders, the other Anders Hardring, you have been around with Imagimote since the early days as well. Do you say the similar situation, or?
Yes and no. We were very early, and with Econo also. But what I think, I would say that if I talk about the TinyML or Edge AI market, there are the number of competitors and companies like ourselves. I mean, there is a lot of tech companies doing a lot of solutions. And we have a lot of interest in projects with Texas and other people, but I would still say we are in the early days of the TinyML market. It takes time, and it's not a done market. It's still early days. That's my and everything was stopped for us, at least. Everything was stopped during the pandemic, but now we have a lot of interest, but it's still, we think it's still early days.
Daniel, what's your view? Similar, or?
Yeah, it's needed unmute. Sorry about that. Yeah, I agree, and in particular, I do agree a lot with what Anders from Econo is saying, that there's a less of a hurdle of having to discuss that products need to be smart. But I think what you often have a discussion about is, where do we start? Which end do we start in? And being able to start with something very simple but that provides a lot of value, that's one key. The other thing too is, once you move away from just selling a product and then it's out through the door, to saying, well, I'm going to have a continuous life of some sorts with a smartness on the product I'm selling, that opens up a lot of organizational issues as well, and particularly on the service side, because now product companies are moving away from just selling yet another product to moving to selling services. That changes the whole game for them in terms of the staff they need to have, the organization they need to build. And these are the reasons why things maybe take a little longer than you would really want. But that is happening now. They're realizing that they really need to do that. I think that's a fundamental change that we've seen over the last few years, where before they were more scratching their heads about, well, why, and does this make any sense, to this makes sense, but we still need, there are some consequences that we need to be able to grab those.
I think the road towards a more sustainable kind of product manufacturing and so forth actually includes product as a service, that people like the vendors actually own the product throughout the whole life cycle, because that gives the incentive to be much more careful with the equipment and the gear and try to reuse it and so forth. So, but not only
it creates customer stickiness, and you can increase your margins as well. So there's a lot of economical value as well, not just from a sustainability perspective.
But my follow-on question to the three of you is actually, are the companies typically ready from a more like data point of view to take care of the data that's generated from and is supposed to be sent to the smart products.
I can say one thing. One of our customers we talked to, they say as a company they say okay, they have people, they're very interested in building models, but the boring things here, it's collecting the data, cleaning the data. No one is interested in that, but they're very interested in building models. So that's kind of, I think, shows some kind of still an immaturity in what's really needed to take AI products to market. There is and it's also like Daniel is saying, it's a lot of, as soon as you go over cross organization, everything gets more complicated because someone knows the hardware, someone knows the firmware, and it gets more complicated.
Alnag, the same similar view from you? Who takes care of the smart lawnmowers? Are they ready to do that?
Yeah, I think so, but it is a longer process to actually get the whole digitalization into production.
Yeah, I always say we are only at the beginning of a 20-year transformation. So let's see. Let's ask the product people. If you come with a smarter product to somebody who already has a similar non-smart product, I guess it would immediately look like it's more expensive. Is that a problem for you, from Dennis and Jonas, or is it easy to explain the value, so to speak, in the product?
If I start, then yes, of course, it will be a little bit more expensive. I think people maybe turn around, but what we are looking in the first phase now is a lot of human and safety persons, and they are really liking this product. Back in the days, in my old job, I was first selling or introducing the connectivity on trucks. And then, of course, people were, oh, you're following me, you're tracking me. I cannot go to border shop and buy beer as I could before, but now you can see where I am. But that's starting to go down and down and down. Nobody really cares anymore. That's why I think if you have this, let's say, that it's something that really gives you the extra edge, or something that is easy to use, and it's good, safe for us, lives and that sort of things. I think that it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So, but sure, some people would say, "Oh, now you can track me if I go to the toilet." That's for sure. But I think that in the end, that would be no problem at all.
Yeah. Dennis, do you meet people who say, "Yes, I would love those, but they're too expensive"?
Yeah, we certainly do. So in construction, there's a big value chain. And there's the people that build the buildings, and then they actually don't care about the buildings for the rest of the lifetime. So you need to be very particular about who you are contacting, because our value proposition for new sites are very low because the price for a label is very low. Yeah. But our value proposition for operations, facility management is very, very high. We can show that in business cases, but besides showing it in business cases, these people also just think that this is a pain in the ass. They are unable to solve the problems that they are having on a day-to-day basis. So convincing them is a very little issue. Actually, we think about raising our prices because they swallow them way too easily. So.
Yeah. One last kind of question, unless the audience have any questions to fill in with. What about security? I mean, this is a burning issue that's kind of growing and growing. The more you distribute the intelligence to products and so forth, also in a sense, the more you allow for challenges and breaches and so forth. Is that anything that works against you, or do you have any good ideas of how to argue against those kind of arguments when you meet customers? Is this more kind of dangerous than others?
Yeah, well, it depends on what type of security. But if you talk about interception of data, etc., that's much more likely if you send all the data from the device to the cloud. So in a normal circumstance, you actually have less of that doing the processing on the edge, and then encrypting data that is the valuable KPIs, sending them back to a cloud. So the way that's been done before of sending most of the data to the cloud is actually more dangerous in terms of security when it comes to data security than what we propose, I believe.
I think if I look at all our projects, no, we're not discussing security. That's yet. I will say yet.
Okay.
We do have that discussion from time to time, but I think there's two. I think Anders from Econo has a good point. Doing everything on the edge sort of lowers that risk because the transfer is actually part of it. But we address it by being able to allow the customers to put in their own security protocols on alongside our software on top of it. So it's a part of the modulation in our software. So that's one thing. But the other is, what is the alternative? I don't think they have a choice. It's going to have to be addressed. But I think if you don't jump on the bandwagon, it's not going to, you're going to be losing market shares.
Okay, super. Well, thank you so much again, all speakers. Nobody knows about the future really, but what we love to hear are people who actually have tried things and done things, sharing what they learned. So this is why I appreciate all the speakers who come up and share what they do with us. So having said that, let me just mention one other thing while I have a couple of you on the line here. Well, just so you know, because there are some discussions, the rumors about that, we just announced the things that we are letting away the operation of our building in Stockholm. But things will stay there. We will stay in things. It's just that the owner of the building will take over the operations of the house from January 1. So for us, it's much, much better because neither Linda nor me love to be waked up in the nights by Securitas alarm or other people calling about heat problems. So we are happy not to be able to have to operate the building any longer, but still be there and take advantage of everything. And Akademiska Hus are wonderfully good at that. So I think it's going to be a win-win-win for everyone. Thank you so much today and have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.